Let's start. Hi, everyone. Today we have the App Samurai team with us, and we will be specifically talking about the global mobile advertising market, which is estimated to be about $200 billion. It's huge. Specifically, tonight we will talk about mobile advertising fraud, actually, which is also a big figure. It's about $50 billion a year. That number puts the mobile ad fraud and attribution fraud right after the biggest forms of organized crime, actually, like gun smuggling, human trafficking, and narcotic drug trade. And today we have the team from App Samurai who will take us through this problem, how their product Interceptd is solving that problem, targeting the fraudsters. And then I think we will also talk about Apple, not related to the fraud, and how their new rules related to the tracking systems known as the IDFA, and how it will impact the advertising world in the years to come. So with that, we have the App Samurai team to take the microphone, and I am going on mute. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you, Ali, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We are here from the App Samurai team. App Samurai is the company that is the company that developed Interceptd. And today I'm Emre. I'm head of people, culture, and happiness. And we are together with Soner, who is our chief product officer and also one of our co-founders. And we are also here with Kutay. Kutay was also somebody who was, they were both part of Interceptd from day zero. So that's why we thought it's a good idea to bring them on board. Within the next 45 minutes, we will cover the state of advertising fraud in 2021. But before we look ahead, let's look into the past, and you will see probably you remember Al Gore and his international quest about climate change all the way back in 2006. And his speech was titled "An Inconvenient Truth," which is a highly relevant title for today's session because we are here to talk about another inconvenient truth. Just like the climate change, it's a hairy problem and it's something that's not very pleasant to talk about. And it is the inconvenient truth about digital advertising. Ad fraud, as we call it, it's an expensive, embedded, and pervasive problem within the mobile advertising industry. Thankfully, the attitudes have changed dramatically from a few years ago when people prefer to pretend the problem didn't even exist, which is somewhat similar to the climate change in that respect. And today, let's start with an example from 2017. To illustrate how one of the most well-known and resilient companies in the world experienced this inconvenient truth. You probably know Uber. Everybody knows Uber. Uber has always been good at adapting to new challenges and inconveniences. They adapted to changes in people's habits. They were good at dealing with new regulations. They opened up new cities, closed down other ones. They expanded and contracted at mind-boggling speeds, considering their massive operation. They constantly readjusted and themselves, and they always found a solution. So it's no question that Uber is one of the most agile giants in the world, and it took them almost 150 million US dollars before they figured out something was wrong with their ads. That's why we are here to talk about Uber a little bit as a start. One of the key moments for ad fraud awareness for the majority of advertisers was when Uber sued its agency after discovering tens of millions of dollars of ad fraud. It was a really high-profile case, and it included Uber suing its agency and its agency countersuing in response. And that's how it worked. And just to give you an idea and to understand the scale of the problem, Uber was able to cut down its digital ad spend by 2/3, almost $100 million, with no significant impact on the performance of their campaigns. This is because a large chunk of their budget was being wasted on fraud, and they had to pay their organic users installs as well. And this is where Interceptd helps mobile advertisers. And in Interceptd, it's an independent anti-fraud solution that's designed to detect, flag, and block fraudulent activity against mobile advertisers. So it's sort of a protection solution. It's vendor agnostic, meaning it doesn't distinguish between different traffic sources, and it's a very familiar software as a service business model based on traffic volume and not the number of installs, or it doesn't care where the installs come from. It doesn't even care if there's an install or not. So the incentive here is 100% aligned with that of the advertiser. So I'll leave the stage to Soner, who is going to explain the crucial mechanics of ad fraud for you.
Thank you, Emre. Let me begin by first defining mobile ad fraud here. When we talk about mobile ad fraud, we generally refer to app install fraud or attribution fraud. Although the motivation is the same, is to be credited for app installs, hijacking the in-app events during an advertising campaign. Fraudsters use many tactics, which include sending fake impressions, delivering background clicks, all to hijack the main KPI event of an ad campaign. The reason for calling mobile ad fraud as attribution fraud is because marketers use an attribution tool or an attribution partner to understand the origin of an app install, since they are using multiple channels, multiple marketing channels at once. At the end of the day, fraudsters' main aim is to fake those attribution tools methods to be credited instead of the correct origin of an install. We are talking about billions of dollars each year. This is a really huge amount of money. And according to IAB, this year, around $50 billion we will lost to fraudsters again. So it's not hard to be tracked this money and catch the bad guys, right? But actually in our ad tech journey, we have seen many different scenarios and many different tactics. So it's not really easy to separate the victim and the criminal. Let's look at the money flow here in a simple performance campaign. Advertisers often use an agency partner to scale the performance of a campaign. Agencies use many ad networks and many affiliates, and these agencies' main aim is to spend the marketing budget according to the main objective of an advertiser. Ad networks do not transparently share, most often the time, they do not share their sources, and sometimes they even don't know their sources. So it's quite possible the same ad is being rebrokered many times, and they end up at the same publisher by different networks. Publishers are registered apps or websites here who are showing the ads to the end users. So when an end user sees an ad, the mechanism is like they click the ad. First, they see the ad, of course, which what we call this an impression. Then they click the ad, and afterwards they install the advertised app. Advertisers pay for either for an impression or for a click or an install, according to the attribution report of the mobile measurement partner. Agency pays to the end network, and the end network pays to the publisher. This is a simple scenario, but imagine the number of steps when hundreds of networks are in the chain, just like in Uber case. And also imagine the types of fraud and different characteristics of fraud that are being handled. It's not always the publisher who is generating fake clicks or impressions. Sometimes the end network SDK itself doing the shady stuff. In 2018, the market was shocked again by accusations of one of the biggest publishers, which owns tens of apps, which are downloaded hundreds of millions of times. The one who was blamed here was Cheetah Mobile Apps. The accusation was Cheetah Mobile Apps executed clicks flooding and click injections to hijack installs. Cheetah Mobile blamed third-party SDK kits about the click flooding. The case is still in court, but one thing is certain. Millions are lost again to fraudsters, whoever they are. People are generally talking about the money stolen from advertisers, but there's another side of the coin. Fraudsters, they hijack installs from their legitimate rival publishers or hijack installs from the organic part of the campaign. Let's look at the math of a simple performance campaign here. So there are two publishers for the sake of the discussion. And let's say the UA manager, user acquisition manager, defined $1,000 per each publisher. At the beginning of the campaign, in day one, they are delivering around like 200 installs with reasonable cost per installs. What we generally see after a certain heat-up period, fraudsters start to use their tactics to increase their so-called performances. Clever ones do this perfectly, and it's really hard to catch. And at the end of the month, when the user acquisition manager makes her analysis to make an optimization, what she sees is the huge difference, huge performance gap between those publishers. With common sense, the decisions he makes is to blacklist the low performer ones or decrease their daily budget and increase the daily budget of the high performers and keep the high performer during the whole campaign period. So apart from stealing the rivals installs on a performance campaign, fraudsters also live through the entire campaign by outperforming their rivals with too good to be true results here, just like here. As this is a complex problem, the solution is also complex. We built Interceptd to filter out fraudulent clicks and installs while helping UA managers to understand the real return of their ad spend. This is really vital for campaign optimization, mobile ad campaign optimization. We offer a complete protection, meaning our approach includes a complete protection from impression down to the in-app level with a holistic approach, meaning we are utilizing a deterministic approach and also machine learning based approach. Our deterministic rules block individual clicks, installs, and events, and with really clear evidences. For example, in an Android click injection case, a simple deterministic rule is really enough, just looking at the click times of a user. We also utilize publisher-based alarms to blacklist fraudulent publishers in real time. In such filters, we use all the available data in impression, clicks, and installs to catch an abnormal behavior. The difference between the deterministic and the publisher-based alarm is that until we figure out the publisher is fraudulent, the product Interceptd does not interfere with the traffic. We let the clicks and installs, but when we understand, we blacklist the publisher and flag all clicks and installs delivered so that afterwards the advertiser can claim for the damage. This is not all, of course. We also deliver clear evidences both to advertiser and to the publisher transparently for each case, and we provide many granular reporting options about the real performance of a fraud-free campaign. As I said, fraud is a complex issue, but things are about to get more complex after Apple's privacy action. Apple announced that IDFA, which is a unique advertising identifier, heavily used by advertisers, publishers, and analytics tools, will be deprecated. And also Apple introduced an improved version of SKN network, which is a kind of attribution analytics framework, and soon should be utilized by all advertisers for measuring the campaign performance. My Kutay colleague will talk about this change now and the effects of it in terms of advertising, attribution, and fraud, of course.
Thank you, Soner. So let's start with what's changing on iOS with iOS 14. So imagine you are the user and you see an advertisement of the Advertiser app in a game app. You click and you go to the App Store. And before you download, Game app shares your unique device ID, which is called IDFA, ID for Advertisers, with the ad network that they received the ad, so that the network can know that the ad is clicked by your device. Then the network shares this information with the advertiser app's attribution partner, or called mobile measurement partner, so that they can know there is a new click from your device. And if you complete the download, it will be thanks to them. And this all happens before you complete your download. Once you complete the download, the new app also shares your device ID with the MMP, basically to say, I'm installed on this device. And now MMP can attribute this install with the click, and it shows which ad campaign has converted. And I mean, this is useful for marketing optimizations for the advertiser app. Lastly, MMP also shares back your device ID with the network, and now a network knows that their ad has converted, and you are interested in stuff like the advertiser app. This helps them to make a profile of their users and make a better targeting for the next time they are showing an advertisement. The last part is mainly what creates privacy concerns for Apple. So, I mean, this your device ID is basically the reason why you are seeing similar ads on different platforms or different apps. So even though your data is anonymized, imagine you have browsed a surprise gift for your partner, and later within that week, you are browsing Facebook with your partner and you see a similar gift ideas in the feed. So this is a simple privacy breach. But a far worse example is different anonymous databases can be cross-matched to generate comprehensive non-anonymous database. So your name and address in a shopping app can be matched with your precise current location in a fitness app, and it can create some problems for you. Apple used to have a solution for this. So under settings, you can disable ad tracking by enabling this limited ad tracking. But this was only used by tech-savvy people. Estimates were last year, it was like 16% to 25% of iOS users were using it. But this will be changing in iOS 14.5. So Apple is now switching to a model where every app will ask for a permission to enable ad tracking. The wording is so dramatic that probably most users will not allow tracking. So it says this app would like permission to track you across websites or other apps owned by other companies. So when most users don't allow tracking like this, then we cannot talk about attribution, like device graphs, user profiles, targeting, re-engagement. They will become a lot harder. From the advertisers' point of view, let's focus on how much will be affected on attribution side. So Android will stay the same. Let's assume half your budget is on Android, and the change is only on iOS. For iOS, we need to separate traffic into sources like in-app and mobile web, because in-app also means within iOS. So the users are coming within iOS to your iOS app. And within your, within this traffic, these users should also be divided into opt-in to tracking or opt-out that doesn't allow you to track. So the same separation should be done for your app as well. So any new user which downloaded your app, will they be opting into tracking or opt out? So if the user opted in 2 scenarios for tracking, then current MMPs can still use IDFA for attribution. If the user is received from mobile web and opted in your app, then fingerprinting, which is a probabilistic attribution method, can still be used. But this is as much as current MMPs can do. For any scenario where user is not allowing tracking, either in the source app or in your advertiser app, MMPs cannot make an attribution. This is where Apple provided that SKAd network framework. So within iOS ecosystem, the top part, like SKAd network will be able to make an attribution. But they only do this within iOS environment. And from web to app traffic, we still need attribution tools to make this fingerprinting so that we can understand where the traffic comes from. However, if the users are not opt-in in the advertising app, then there will be no attribution. And this unfortunately includes influencers as well. And this is the problematic area where currently there is no solution. So let's look at SKAd network from advertisers' point of view. So you go to an ad network and ask to publish your app. Then the network distributes your ad to various apps, and these apps start sending clicks to your store page with a network signature. And when installs happen, Apple's SKAd network informs the network with a signature that their clicks converted. Here, Apple is doing the attribution, keeping MMPs out of the picture. And networks receive a conversion information, but this time it's not, it's without IDFA user level data. So they cannot make profiling. They can record context such as which app and which campaigns are converting at which time, etc. And they can use that for targeting. Please note that the signature we are mentioning here is in the conversion, and it's only for the networks to know that it was coming from their clicks. It holds no information about legitimacy of the click. So if you look at the advertiser's perspective again, so after you tell the network to advertise your app, you start to receive clicks, but you don't know what happens between these 2 steps. Is your ad being shown to real users, or there's a single person with 100 devices? Are there clicks coming with users' intention, or they are coming from the background without even user realizing it? So fraud is targeted to whoever is doing the attribution. In this case, it is Apple. The obvious question is it possible to conduct fraud on Apple's ecosystem? So there is jailbreaking. So even though the ratio is so low, it's less than 1% of all iOS devices, there are a lot more installs coming from jailbroken devices because these are used for bot activity mainly. And there are now third-party app stores that doesn't even require jailbreaking. So instead of App Store, you can download apps from the different stores. Last year, there was a click injection case discovered on iOS. It was covered in news. And many marketers are currently buying bulk installs to look more popular and improve their store rankings. So they also try to fool Apple's algorithms. So fraud is already happening on iOS, and it doesn't seem to be changing when they provide their own attribution solution. So let's look at some of the ways that fraud can happen on your app if you're using SKAd network structure. So this is an offer wall on the right side. It's a legitimate ad unit that helps you get really high number of installs by incentivizing the user with a reward to download. So it can be an in-game currency or real money, but your aim is to improve your store ranking by buying really high number of installs. User's aim is to earn reward and delete the app. So you cannot expect high in-app conversion. These users are cheaper than normal campaigns where you are trying to optimize CPM to CPI. This becomes fraud when you think you are doing a normal user acquisition campaign, but the ad network is buying from these incentivized sources. So you are thinking you are buying quality traffic with like paying customers, but they are buying from incentivized sources. We will just delete your app after install. Another one is doing this bulk install yourself. So these are called device farms. Let me show you an example here. So anyone with like multiple devices can run a farm. But in this example, we are probably seeing 1 million devices. In farms, they click your ad one by one and they install one by one. And Apple's SKN network will still attribute these installs to this farm without knowing it's a farm. So this is still pretty much possible with Apple's attribution solution. Some devices can be used for multiple downloads as well, just by resetting the device ID. So far this has been done by resetting IDFA, but now it can be done by resetting your Apple ID. So if you have like multiple Apple accounts, you can make multiple downloads. And this becomes a bot when you have these devices do this automatically and you have many devices, and jailbroken devices can generate like fake clicks in high volumes as well in really fast quantities. So bot activity is still possible on Apple's ecosystem. Another one, I mean, so far the installs were mostly fake, but other methods are trying to steal attribution from other sources. So this time users are actually downloading the app, but fraudsters are finding a way to look like they are coming from their advertisements. So the first one is called usually click spamming, but impressions spamming can also happen. For the sake of simplicity, let's continue with the click example. What fraudsters do is they have an app on real devices, which is being used on many real user devices. And they are sending clicks without users' intention. So the clicks are coming from background to App Store. And if that user one day downloads your app organically, then there was a click before from the fraudster. So Apple thinks it's coming from that device. This is a way to steal organic installs, which looks like they are coming from fraudulent sources. Another method is to steal attribution from other paid channels. So it's called click injection. So in a normal user flow, user sees an ad, clicks, and then the store page opens and clicks the install button and install happens. But when a click happens, if fraudsters find a way to inject another click before landing on the store page or like opening the app, then this second click is the last click, and Apple thinks that's the one that user clicked as an advertisement. So this looks like an impossible scenario on Apple, but last year it was proven that one of the networks were actually achieving it. So in this example, the top one is the legitimate ad network sending clicks to the App Store, but the fraudster's SDK was able to see this click and send this information to their servers, and from the servers they were able to send another click to the attribution provider. So last year there was no SKN network, but this year if they can pull this off, they will be sending that second click to the Apple, and Apple will think the second one is the real one. So the injection case is still possible. Lastly, the most sneaky method is spoofing, which is basically hacking Apple. So what fraudsters do is they listen to network communication between your device and Apple servers. So they listen everything that goes out from your device. And once they see enough evidence, they can reverse engineer and try to imitate the same signals from their servers. And Apple thinks there's a new install, but it's just coming from a server without even a real device. So this may look impossible, but there is no like 100% safe system. So we have seen services where you can buy bulk fake installs, which shows a lot of installs on Apple, but we didn't see any install on the customer's analytics tool. So the installs were not real. only they were trying to generate fake installs on Apple servers. So this is a clear case of spoofing. And fraudsters will still try to hack Apple and show high number of installs. So this is a really sneaky method that is really also hard to catch. So the main point of view is, yes, it is still possible to make a fraud on Apple. And that's basically where we come in as an Interceptd. So back to you, Emre.
Thank you, Kutay. And so today we wanted to tell you a story about one of our products, Interceptd, which addresses an inconvenient truth. It's an inconvenient truth for mobile advertising. The reason for this presentation wasn't to bury you in technical details or to show you how complex the technology is. The reason was to illustrate the severity of the problem. It's a huge problem. This problem is very dear to our hearts. It's not because we spent countless nights working on it, 50 people, but it's a real problem, and it has an impact on thousands of app developers and companies and so on. It's a problem that's deemed an inconvenient truth, pretty much like the climate change back in 2006. And just like the climate change, it's real, it's here. Just like the climate change, the solution is to work together as device manufacturers, advertisers, ad networks, publishers, MMPs, and of course, independent auditors like Interceptd. It was great to share our story with you tonight, and we are happy to answer any questions that you have.
We have, looks like, one question from Ipek. Emre, do you see the question, or should I read it?
Yes, I can. So it's a great question. Kutay, on your chart, you said Apple is going to change, but Android is going to stay the same. It was all green. But then after Apple's new rules on the IDFA, what's going to be the future for developments for Google's advertising ID? And is it possible that Google will also update rules just like Apple? And how do you think this is going to affect the ecosystem? It's a great question.
Okay, so currently there is no announcement from Google because advertising is the core business of Google. However, this privacy concern is now being like a more popular issue among real users. So when users will see that pop up, they will understand that advertising is like a serious tracking consequences. So Google will probably come up with their own solution. So right now it's just on rumors. Google didn't provide a detailed response, but they said they are considering some solutions. Probably it will be on device level, like limited ad tracking, but we'll see. Probably within 1 or 2 years, that there should be a follow-up from Google.
Okay, we can get more questions if you'd like. You can just type away and ask anything about ad fraud. It's just amazing to me how much time and money people spend on fraud, isn't it? But if it's $50 billion thereafter, I guess it makes sense. It's a very big pie. So if there are no more questions, we thank everyone for listening in right now or listening to the recording. If you have any questions about App Samurai, Interceptd, or their other products like Storyly, please get in touch directly with App Samurai or the 212 team. We'll be very happy to put you in touch. So if there are no questions, I thank the App Samurai team. This was a very insightful presentation. Thank you. And say goodbye to everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Great to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye.